autoimmune disease using her particular integrated approach. This program is called Conscious Cancer. Integrative medicine reforms the importance of the relationship between practitioner and the patient and emphasizes the wellness, the healing of the whole person. The physical, mental, social, spiritual, environmental, and other state of being are so considered as a primary goals. The conventional and complementary alternative medical approaches are used to deliver the most comprehensive patient care. Dr. Sahi uses conventional and complementary alternative medical approaches to deliver the most appropriate and integral patient care. Individuals are made responsible and involved in their own health. During her medical training, Dr. Sangeeta Sahi was most interested in spontaneous and scientifically unexplainable miraculous physical healings, which she observed happening to some of her patients. This inspired and led her to study and research alternative and complementary medicine with the highest spiritual master from the Himalayas, the Americas, and across Europe. These modalities include Ayurveda, massage therapy, Kundalini yoga, and traditional Chinese medicine, along with psycho-spiritual counseling. I take the immense pleasure to inviting Dr. Sangeeta Sahi for the keynote speech.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so I want to just give you a little bit of background of what I've done and who I am. This was a nice introduction, but it was slightly incomplete. I am a medical doctor and very, very scientifically oriented. But because I've had some very, very interesting and profound experiences during my med school training and during my teenage years, I was and there was no scientific data to back that or explain some of the experiences that my patients were having or that I was experiencing. So I decided to look at the spiritual route and see what I could find out and explore that avenue after I finished my medical training. I come from 4 generations of medical doctors, so medicine is not something that it was something that I'm very, very familiar with, and the workings of the mind and the body and the technical part of it was very, very easy and easy to understand and assimilate. The spiritual side was a little bit more interesting. So after I finished my medical training and I worked with some spiritual masters from the States, from Asia, from Europe, I also worked in quantum healing modalities, including Ayurveda, including the traditional Chinese medicine, and also energy medicine, which was not really quantifiable or scientifically provable in those days. But now we've come much, much further. We've progressed. So after having worked with these wonderful, wonderful people, I started working with quantum physicists in the States and with biophysicists in the UK. And what I did was I integrated a lot of the knowledge and the experiences that I'd had and the work that I'd done with my own patients. Because throughout this time that I was learning, I was also practicing. And then I added on one other layer to that, and I trained in something called psychoneuroendocrinoimmunology, PNEI. What does it mean? Psychoneuroendocrinoimmunology is actually the biochemical axis of how thoughts affect our nervous system, our immune system, and our endocrine system. So when I looked at that, that was the missing piece of the puzzle, because I added onto that layer my own understanding and experience and knowledge of consciousness, and I started working with my patients in that way, looking at the level of consciousness and the origin of disease rather than just the symptomatic relief and therapeutics of disease states, which is what a traditional technical doctor does. So my main interest throughout my life has been looking at the origins of why things happen, and therefore when you can find out the why, you can look at the solutions, which are real-time solutions rather than just short-term remedies. So it was about 10 years ago that I started seeing a lot of people with immune system problems and especially cancer. So a lot of the work that I've done that I'm going to present today is based on my experience and study and work with people who have immune system problems and cancer. And this ties in very, very much with, let's say, the big general term of astrobiology. Because my research and the observations that I had real time with real human beings, not in a laboratory, not in an academic institution, but actually with real time human beings, was some of the stuff, some of the theories, and not the theories, sorry, some of the presentation that I'm going to show you today, to share with you today. So my focus is cancer, which is now an epidemic, as we all know. There's been research to say the most recent figures are that 1 in 2 people, at least in Japan and in Asia, will have cancer. If not, I mean, 1 in 2 is 50%. That's huge. So it's an epidemic, and it seems to be growing. And there seem to be many theories, and nobody really knows the answer. And I agree with that. I don't think there is an answer, because I think for me, in my work, cancer is the emperor of maladies. It teaches us so much if we really look into it deeply and profoundly. And this has been my experience with cancer. So my work led me to create a program specifically designed for people with immune system problems and cancer. And it's a 13-step life recovery program, and it's called Conscious Cancer. So I'm going to take you through the presentation of that. It's a 13-step life recovery program. I would like a little bit of interaction, because normally I teach quite a lot, and I've worked with many diverse communities from all over the world. And the more interaction we have, and the more questions and answers, the juicier the presentation, and the exchange is much richer. So the first slide, what do you think that is? What do you think these are pictures of?
One is a North Pole of Jupiter, the hexagonal, or Saturn maybe, the hexagonal shaped vortex.
Exactly right. That is the vortex of Saturn, not Jupiter, Saturn.
The one I know.
This is a cross-section of a DNA molecule, human DNA molecule. And it very much shows as above, so below. So there is a coherent connection between our own biological structure and the structure of the planets and the celestial spheres. So, and Saturn, planet Saturn, is actually the exit point and the entry point of our particular solar system. And that completely matches with our DNA molecule. Okay, reality. What is reality? We experience ourselves as separate units, but we're actually not. The truth and the reality of existence is that we are a whole. There's like a wholeness of being. We're not separate parts, but we're a unified field of existence. And this individual wholeness reflects outwards, obviously, into our family wholeness, into our relationship wholeness, into community wholeness, and ultimately into global and universal wholeness. So we start out as individual packets of our own system. Then we project out into family, So the family are also individual units, which then have a bigger, enlarged, extended universe of their own, and then we spread out into community, and then we spread out into global, and then we spread out into universal wholeness. And that's actually, we're making that transition as human beings, as humanity right now, from, I believe, the global level to the universal level. Some consciousness levels are still going from community to global, but most of us are going from global into universal. So let's talk about cancer. What's the reality of cancer versus the illusion of cancer? Now, cancer, for me, is actually one of the most profound and complex disease states which contributes to physical evolution, cellular evolution. That, for me, is the reality of cancer. What can happen when a person experiences cancer, and what may happen, and different options according to the consciousness level and the program of that individual who is experiencing cancer. So, what is a universal human being versus a world human being? Can anybody contribute here? What's a world human being? Do any of you have any, I'm sure lots of you have, a background in quantum physics or a little bit knowledge of quantum physics? Quantum physics, the model works on dimensions. So when I talk about a world human being, I'm talking about a 3D, three-dimensional human being. A human being who is still wrapped up within the dimensions of space and time. And as we go into a universal human being, we start to go beyond the dimensions of space and time. We actually move into higher dimensional states, frequencies, and physical cellular consciousness that goes beyond space and time. How do we do that at the beginning stages? And especially somebody who is experiencing a disease state like cancer. They do that by first becoming aware. They become aware, obviously, that they've got a disease like cancer, and then they start becoming conscious of what they want to do about it. How do they want to actually proceed in their life? Do they want to give up and just let it be? Or do they want to go through the medical route of chemotherapy and radiation? Or do they want to go through the more universal route of looking at themselves and actually taking responsibility for their own lives, their own habits, their own lifestyles, and moving out of their own conditioned behavioral patterns and make real change, which creates then transformation on a physical level and an emotional and mental level, which ultimately creates a shift in the spiritual paradigm. When I talk about spirituality, I'm referring to everything that is material and non-material. We generally talk about spirituality as something that is unknown and esoteric and philosophical and more of a subjective field. I'm talking about spirituality because the spiritual dimensions encompass everything. Everything that we don't know or that is non-material and non-physical, as well as everything that is physical. They're just different levels, different densities of spiritual matter. Okay, so a mechanical human being is someone who is unconscious, who doesn't think, who just accepts whatever is going on and just moves in that way, who's what many people call asleep or unconscious. And they are prisoners of their own taboos, of their own unconscious mind. Now, in the old paradigm, we used to talk about the subconscious as where most of our taboos existed. Things have changed in the last 10 years or so, where the subconscious has now evolved into conscious mind. So we can actually see and become aware much faster than before of what is going on. We have so much information available on the internet, through books, through TV, through all sorts of media about health, about disease, about new knowledge. We have so much more accessible than ever before, that we have accessibility to conscious states of living and behaving much more than previously. Physical transformation through life and disease. I am completely convinced that all disease states are actually our body telling us, informing us, communicating with us that it's ready to move forward, that there is something stuck in the present time and present state, and it now is ready to move forward into a new state of being. I want to just take you through some statistics very quickly. Cancer is a leading cause of death worldwide, we know that, and accounting for 8.2 million deaths in 2012. That's a long time ago. That's 6 years ago now. The most common causes of cancer are lung, liver, stomach, colorectal, colon and rectum, breast and esophageal. These figures are dated. Even figures of 6 months ago are dated. Nobody really has the most up-to-date figures of cancer because it's growing at such a rate. This is the cause of cancer from the World Health Organization definition. So the World Health Organization says that cancer arises from one single cell. The transformation from a normal cell into a tumor cell is a multi-stage process, typically a progression from a precancerous lesion to malignant tumors. These changes are the result of the interaction between a person's genetic factors and 3 categories of external agents: physical carcinogens such as asbestos, tobacco smoke, aflatoxin, and biological carcinogens such as infection from viruses, bacteria, and parasites. The WHO is made a classification of cancer-causing agents with its own branch of the IARC, the International Agency for Research. I don't completely agree with this. I don't think that there is definitely an interaction between a person's genetics, but not just of external agents. These are physical agents. What I've experienced and seen in my own practice is now we have different cosmic factors also resulting in genetic mutations. Scientifically, this has not been validated because there is not enough data, and even if there was, the data cannot be quantified or measured in a way that we can actually say that, look, this is absolute evidence of this creates this. Like I said to you, we are complex organisms. We are made up of many, many dimensions, living in a complex state of being. So for us to say that, oh, this creates this, and this creates this, is very, very Cartesian. It's very Newtonian, and very linear. And we're actually multi-dimensional beings. So there are multi-factors creating different diseases and resulting in a dynamically changing internal and external environment that we inhabit right now. So cosmic radiation, what is it? Please, can you jump in, because I know that there's a lot of knowledge in this room right now, and I would love for there to be some participation. That would be great. Primary and secondary cosmic rays. What are primary cosmic rays? What are they made up of?
So accelerated atoms, hydrogen, helium, and mostly that. And
yes, and then there is
particles.
yes, and then there is another level which is gamma radiation, which actually is not just atomic particles
Yes.
of helium and hydrogen. Gamma radiation is something else. Gamma radiation, a lot of scientists do not know where it comes from. There are many theories and hypotheses that it comes from galaxies that are very, very far away from our own solar system and our own universal system. And they may even be coming from supernovae and pulsars, which we don't know because they're too far away for us to actually explore and understand. So primary cosmic rays are those that enter, and they enter our Earth's atmosphere, and they're not able to penetrate the Earth's magnetic field. Around our planet Earth are many magnetic fields, and primary cosmic rays, most of them don't get through. Or if some of them get through, they collide with atomic particles in our own Earth's atmosphere, and they create secondary cosmic rays and secondary ionizations, which actually get diluted before they enter the Earth's atmosphere and actually reach our Earth itself. Gamma radiation is a little bit different because there are different particles, very heavy particles, called muons. You would, I'm sure, know about this. Muons can penetrate hundreds of miles into the Earth's, deep into the Earth's layers. And they can actually create a lot of change within the Earth itself, the Earth system. So radon is a side effect of uranium decaying into lead. And in that process, radon is given off. Uranium is ubiquitous on this planet. It's everywhere. So by default, we are exposed to radon all the time. And radon is a noble gas. It's colorless, odorless, it's tasteless. And radon itself then decays into alpha particles. Alpha particles are basically protons, and beta particles, which are basically electrons, and gamma rays. How do cosmic rays create cellular genetic mutations? We don't know, actually, but we hypothesize. We are observing different things happening at the level of the DNA. Now, what we're finding is that the DNA within the nucleus of our cells is not just a biological, physical transmitter of information, but it actually is a superconductor of information from possibly different dimensions. The DNA has been compared to a holographic supercomputer, which uses laser radiation to transmit and expand and use information that it translates physically into our cellular structure here and also in other dimensions. Again, I'm not completely in agreement with that definition because I don't think that DNA behaves like a laser. A laser is a photon of light, or it's a stream of photonic light. The DNA behaves more like antimatter. I believe that the DNA actually, or through the DNA, we are connecting and creating antimatter. Antimatter actually it's the opposite of matter. That's why it's called antimatter. It's an energy, it's not even an energy, it's an energy of imagination. And we connect with that through thoughts. And our thoughts are actually creating our physical bodies as well as our lives. What we imagine is what we create and what we become eventually. That's what I feel is one of the functions of our DNA. So, planet Earth is in space. It's always been in space. And space is highly radioactive, which means actually by definition, human beings, we are radioactive. So the only thing that comes into play here is how radioactive are we? And how much radioactivity can our cells manage without going into a state of disease or dysfunction that starts to affect our cellular functioning and our physical functioning. So actually we come back to the old ancient theories of balance. Everything is about balance. We need radiation in order to evolve, but too much means that we go into disease and physical and cellular stress. Okay, but even if we do, we can come back into a state of balance again. It doesn't mean that we have to stay in that state of imbalance. We can come back into a state of balance, and it doesn't take long as we're willing to do it. So the average person receives the equivalent of 36 X-rays per year. That's a lot, and that's just normal. But also remember that radioactivity is everywhere. I mean, potassium we have radionuclides in soil, in water, abundantly everywhere. You eat enough bananas and you're going to get more and more radiation because potassium is highly radioactive. So I want to talk a little bit about chemotherapy. More people die of chemotherapy and radiation than from cancer. Why? As I've explained previously, it's an imbalance. Too much radiation. Already, our cells are exposed to radiation, environmentally as well as cosmically. And our Earth's magnetic fields and our Earth's atmosphere works very, very similarly to our immune systems. Our immune system is our own individual magnetic field and our own individual shield and protector and filtering mechanism that allows things in if it's working in balance and working efficiently, and it also releases toxins, allows toxins to be released. However, our environments are constantly dynamically changing. Because if you can imagine that our planet Earth is almost like a spaceship, and it's moving through space. It's not stationary. We don't just stay in one location in space and say, okay, that's it, that's where we are. As a planet, we've moved, and that's why we've experienced dimensional shifts. And that's why we're experiencing our physical bodies changing as well in relation to those dimensional shifts. Because we need to adapt to our new Earth and our new environments constantly. If we do that consciously, it's no issue. If we get lost and get into the space of resistance, then it becomes an issue. And that's when our minds and our bodies start reacting. And they start reacting in the format of stress. So what we've seen over and over again, and this is not recently, this has been over many, many years, there is an increased risk of cancer remission within 10 to 15 years for those who have undergone chemotherapy treatment. We have seen more and more cases of leukemia and sarcomas in people who've experienced chemotherapy. And these people are younger, and they experience remissions maybe even 10 years after chemo. We've also, a lot of doctors say that they do not know survival rates because of this. They know, we know that chemo increases the risk of remissions. It's a known fact, but we still use it. Chemotherapy inhibits reproduction of fast dividing cells found in tumors. That's how it works, we know that. But also, healthy cells are damaged by chemotherapy. Now, the interesting thing is that healthy cells, when exposed to chemotherapy, they secreted a protein called WNT16B. Now, this protein actually boosts cancer cell survival. So what's happening here? You're using chemo to kill cancer cells, but you're also killing healthy cells with that same chemo. And the healthy cells are, after being exposed to chemo, are secreting a protein which is actually boosting cancer cell survival. So what are you getting? You're getting a proliferation of mutated cells. Now let's take away the word malignancy and just look at cancer cells as cellular mutations. Let's forget about duality. Let's forget about right, wrong, positive, negative, etc. If these cancer cells are mutated, they're just a bunch of mutated cells, which means mutation in universal terms means lack of coherence. Lack of coherence basically means that they are transmitting individually without communicating with each other. So they're creating an internally chaotic environment within the human body. Imagine if that's what went on in the universe. We would have complete chaos throughout all the planetary systems. The universe is based on unity, harmony, and order. That's what universal actually means by definition. If we can keep that same sort of unity, harmony, and order within our own universe and our own system, then we would be in balance and in synergy with the universal. Okay, so these are just a few quotes. Dr. John Diamond says patients post-chemo are 14 times more likely to develop leukemia. A study in Nature Medicine conducted on men with prostate cancer showed that the DNA of healthy cells was damaged after chemotherapy, we know that. Study co-authored by Peter Nelson of the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Research Institute in Seattle showed that the WNT16B protein was taken up by tumor cells neighboring the damaged cells, and this caused them to grow, invade, and resist subsequent treatment. Stress. Stress is a mechanism, it's a biochemical marker. How does it work? Very simply, you have rapidly dividing mutated cells in the system. Those mutated cells start to secrete a toxin to protect themselves. And the immune system goes into flight or fight mode because it cannot override these toxins. The immune system reacts, and the toxins create an imbalance in the cellular electrochemical potentials. Electrochemical potentials. Our cell membranes are kept efficient filtering systems by electrochemical potentials. What are they? Ions, sodium, potassium, magnesium, chloride. All these ions are what keep our cell membranes cohesive. This results in cellular death, and cellular death through our emotional system is experienced as fear and emotional reactions. Okay? There was something I wanted to say about cellular electrochemical potentials. Yes, people who take minerals, we've seen, have less chance of getting cancer. Who continuously take minerals every day, they have less chances of getting cancer. Another thing that we've noticed is people who regularly go and bathe in mineral springs, they also have less chances of getting cancer. Again, we relate it back to keeping the cellular membranes cohesive and strong. Okay, as I explained earlier, spiritual energy. Spiritual energy is a whole energy. It's not separated into units or subatomic particles, it's a whole. And as I said earlier, taboos were in the realm of the subconscious mind. And as we opened up those realms, those taboos dissolved, and they opened us up to be able to access higher knowledge, higher frequencies, higher light. And it opened up gateways for us within our own brain cells, and that reflected back into our whole body system. So I've explained the role of DNA in emotional energy and thought potentials. Now, magnetic fields and bliss. Okay, bliss is very simple. When you are in a cohesive state and you are in harmony and in balance with dynamically changing universal fields, you are going to be in a state of peace and bliss. And this is really where meditation works, and it's important, and it's been scientifically verified that it works, because it uses the mechanism of stress, allows the person to move through that stress and come into a state of peace and balance, and through that you can actually open up and access higher dimensional frequencies. Okay, so as we're experiencing cellular mutations, remember that within our DNA is not one like continuum of the same DNA. Within us, we have many, many races. We have many genetic streams coming from different cultural heritages. I don't know if any of you have ever had your DNA tested, but you'll find that there are many cultural inputs in that DNA. And as we open up to higher and higher energies and cosmic frequencies, those different strands of DNA start getting activated. So they start creating physical cellular triggers within our system. And these may create life changes, they may create emotional reactions, they may create mental reactions, they may create things like Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, all sorts of disease states that from just a medical point of view, we don't know how to treat properly. So I've used cancer as a multi-dimensional tool. How have I done that? I've actually helped people to start to use mechanisms and natural treatments to be able to transcend many of their physical cellular imbalances as well as their emotional and mental imbalances. What does that allow them to do? This allows them to transcend their existing situation, life situation, into a life rejuvenating, life enhancing, thriving situation. So we go from that level into the colorful. So conscious cancer, it's a 13-step life recovery program. I've used a very, very integrated approach, which has incorporated physical, emotional, and mental and spiritual technologies. And basically, I wanted to introduce that to you. And if any of you are interested and you would like more information about this program or about any of the other work that I'm doing, then those are my details. My website is there, and I can give you my card as well. If you know people who need help, who are experiencing immune system problems and cancer, because they're increasing, please do not hesitate to contact me. Okay? Thank you. Thank you very much. Arigato.
I have one question.
Yes, please.
If you say that more people die from chemotherapy and radiation therapy than from cancer, why do people use
chemotherapy
tools?
Very simple. Money. It's a money-making game, partly. And partly, what I've seen over and over again is people, they want to help, they want to use what I'm doing, they want to be treated. Their families are scared. Oh, but the doctor told us we have to do this. And the hospital said that if this happens, fear. Big, big conditioned reflex of fear. You have to please remember that this is a system. It's not something that's individual. It's a whole hospitalized system, global. So when you get sucked into it, it's partly money making and it's partly like the doctors don't know anything else. They're part of the system too. We're trained when we're in medical school. Who is actually paying for our training? Pharmaceutical companies. So we're trained when we're in medical school about this is the way. That's why you become a doctor. So doctors are doing the same thing. And a lot of doctors also know, they know this, but they can't get out. Either they don't want to get out, or they're too afraid to get out, or they can't. And by law in the UK, a family practitioner, GP, is not allowed to spend more than 10 minutes with a patient. All they can do in 10 minutes is give a repeat prescription. What is a repeat prescription? Supporting pharmaceuticals. That's it. I've been to my doctors in the UK, in London, and they say, look, you know a lot about nutrition, about epigenetics, about many different things. We can't talk about it. That's it. End of story. It's illegal. They're not even allowed to talk about nutritional supplements. Forget about any other modality. So it's a case of you're either working in a particular system, and that system is created in that way, or it's that you're actually working because you want to help people. You want people to become better and to live healthier lives. And that's what I wanted to do always. That's the difference.
But you have a very aggressive pathology you're using,
Using what? What is this?
Yes, not very...
Oh, and chemotherapy is like very, very well known. These are the statistics about chemotherapy. What we're actually doing, let me explain this. because many people ask me this question. What we're actually doing is we are allowing and supporting the body's own healing mechanisms. Your body is an incredible healing machine. It knows how to heal itself, otherwise you wouldn't be alive. There's so much constant influences of so many things around us that we wouldn't be alive if our bodies did not know how to adapt, self-adapt, constantly. So what we're doing with, like you said, is actually supporting and facilitating the body to heal itself, which it knows how to do. Otherwise you wouldn't be alive. What chemotherapy and radiation is doing is bombarding and with the body with even more. So the body has to actually use all its resources to overcome chemo and radiation side effects, as well as healing itself. So you're creating a huge load of stress, which is why they know that almost every doctor I've spoken to, they say, oh, cancer, not many people actually survive from that. They may live a little bit longer, but they die. It's already done, it's a death statement. You don't even give the person a chance. So in the end, what are the choices you have? And yet people who really do take the responsibility and the time to change their diet, to change their way of thinking, to change their exercise, to change movement, to go through this, they not only experience physical changes, but they also experience like complete life transformation. Their relationships change, their jobs change, their lives change. This opens up to a whole new universe. So that's why it's called a life transformation program, life recovery.
But this, you probably have to do it before you get your disease to change your nutrition stuff. Because once you have it, you need to go to this chemotherapy and radiation thing. Because
why? Who says?
Because you will probably die soon with this. And with chemotherapy and radiation, you at least get 10 or 15 years more to live. So maybe it's not that bad, even if you get a leukemia 10, 15 years, but you at least have this 10 or 15 years more to live. So it's giving people a chance to live a bit longer.
I mean, that's not what my experience has shown me, because the life that they have after that, they are constantly in fear. They're like, no, I can get it anytime. I can get it anytime.
But healthy people can also get it at any time. But
no. What I mean is like when people, they call themselves cancer survivors. That's the label they give themselves after cancer. After chemo, we're a cancer survivor. And everything is about war. It's a war on cancer, it's a fight. It's not.
No, it's not, I agree, it's not.
It's not. If you go into war, then there will always be a winner and a loser. That's war. But if you actually say, no, this is a situation, and I can overcome it, that's where the spiritual strength comes in. That's where the other practices that we are not conscious of, that's where things like faith are very, very important and powerful. Because faith is something that you don't know. We know nothing scientifically, let me tell you that. We are babies. We have no idea how the universal systems work. We really don't, because our scientific equipment is so primitive and so rudimentary compared to what is required to know more. So therefore, what we do know is what a lot of tried and tested techniques. Chemotherapy is tried and tested as being a few years. And it's a recent thing. And it will change. You will see in many people, it will be such a primitive tool, chemotherapy, in the next 5 years even. Because we're going into a whole new realm of medical treatments.
So do you have an explanation for this increase of cancer the last 5 or 10 years or something like that?
I think partly, honestly, it is cosmic factors, and partly it's how our planet is reacting to the environment that's changing. So because of cosmic factors, our microbial system has changed, our plants are changing, we ourselves are creating some pollutants by genetically modifying things, by using synthetically produced chemicals. It's a combination. I don't say it's only man-made, no. I think there are many, many things going on that we may not be completely aware of. But there's a lot. And every day I'm reading more and more new articles. Oh, now we know this, and now every day there is something to, oh, we said this caused cancer last week, but now it's changed. Oh, you know, coconut oil is bad for you, and now it's good for you. We're constantly changing because we don't know. We're upgrading information all the time. Our bodies are like a computer system. They get upgraded. That's all that's happening. Evolution is about upgrading. One system is redundant, it's out of date, you need to upgrade. This is what I'm doing with the Conscious Cancer Program, allowing a natural upgrade. Because our body can do it. It's designed that way. Otherwise, like I said, the logical proof is we would not be alive. Simply. Okay, any more questions? Please, you know what, in the break you can ask me questions because I think we need to move on now. But thank you. And our next speaker is Monsieur Alain Iltis, CEO of Imaging Damavan, France. And the title is Temporal Imaging CEBR3 Compton Camera, a new concept for gamma ray astronomy. And sir, I would really appreciate it if you would introduce yourself. I'll just take this away. Thank you very much. Thank you. There you go. You will need this, right?
Yes.
For the projector, sorry. Sorry.